Welcome to Policy and Profit, the podcast for ambitious insurance agents and agency owners who want to build predictable, profitable businesses without chasing bad leads or begging for referrals. And let me just be brutally honest for a second. Most agency owners aren't building a team, they're babysitting one. They spend their days chasing flaky prospects, repeating the same recruiting pitch 5 times a week to like a parrot, only to have no-shows, ghosters, and time vampires drain their time and suck their energy out. And worst of all, their personal production suffers, and they start resenting the team that they tried so hard to build. And if that's you, you're not lazy, you're just trying to scale using effort instead of systems, which is why I built the Autopilot Recruiter, a done-for-you system that helps you attract qualified agents, pre-sell them with your story, and get them onboarded without doing another live Zoom, sales pitch, or three-way call ever again. It's the same system top recruiters are using to grow massive downlines without sacrificing their commissions, their time, or their sanity. So if you're ready to build a team that actually grows itself, go to writemorepolicies.com/playbook and download the free playbook today. Today's guest is a near and dear friend, and he is David Duford. You guys have seen him all over YouTube. He helps new and experienced insurance agents become top final expense telesales producers. So David, welcome to the show. Tell me something you believe is the key to succeeding in insurance sales that most agents completely overlook.
It's having, I think, the right character. And what I mean by that is that, like you said in the outset, a lot of agents complain, moan, bitch, whine. They don't like constructive criticism. They don't want to work. There's so much to be said about having somebody who's willing to be humble, be hungry, focus, and actually apply themselves and when it comes to time on task. And if you have that, if you guys are watching this as an agent, you come in and you have that, it's really hard to fail out of this business. And if you don't have that, that's the number one thing you have to work on.
I'm sure you're familiar with Brian Tracy. He had a Phoenix seminar that was it completely changed my life. I'm in there rewatching it with my wife now. I'm showing her this stuff and she's like all googly eyed over it. It's like the law of concentration. It's like what you dwell on grows. And so you see all these agents bitching about free leads and I'm not getting good leads, I'm not getting help. And what's so funny is the no help, the no support, the bad attitude, it just grows. And so when you
Yeah.
surround yourself and listen to information from people who actually understand what it takes, one, to make sales and be profitable, but actually run a business, stay concentrated, and not have 18 hours of daily. Swipe on your phone, look at your daily usage. If it's like above an hour, 2 hours, and you're not making money, is anything I'm saying incorrect here?
No, it's the number one thorn in my side, admittedly, as an agency owner with dozens of agents across the nation, remote sales. I look at their work hours, I'm like, man, put in more time, but we're all distracted but you have to control yourself and what you're exposed to and what you expose yourself to and put the time in. There's just no easy way, but it's pretty simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. And focusing on what matters and putting the time in is the surest path to having success.
Fastest path to cash is focus, absolutely. And when you guys are focused, you're very imbalanced as well because everything's lopsided. You're focused on one thing. And you're
Right.
gonna have to make some sacrifices and have hard conversations with the people you love. Like, no, when I'm working, you really can't come in here. Our family's livelihoods depend on it because most of you aren't going to be here in 6 months.
Right.
And David and I both know that. So we've been around the block a time or 12 in this industry. You should probably listen to us. And I know you're thinking at this very moment, maybe I should go click on his Taylor Swift video. And you're going to make the same mistakes that we're going to be talking about in this video. So don't do that. That's a dumb decision. Listen with your earballs and watch with your eyeballs because David and I are about to get deep, like scuba diving deep. We're going to take you guys into deep water. So put your rebreathers on. Um, and David, why do you think most people are not willing to set aside the distractions? Is it just dopamine, like Andrew Huberman talks about? Sure, there's some of that, but it's like, why are they not focused on getting results from this, in your opinion?
I think the longer I've been in this business, there are just some people that aren't cut for it. I think that really, and you go back in the day and there's always been business opportunities around. It's not like a new thing. Insurance has always been around and the failure rate's always been extravagantly high. And I think a big reason for it is because it's easy to get into. It's a low
Barrier
investment type
entry.
of business model, right? You just get a license. You're now you're an agent. You can sell, but there's so much more to from getting licensed to actually being successful, from the investment in the systems, finding the right agency, et cetera, that a lot of people aren't explained this or taught this, and they were sold a bill of goods and they come in and it's completely different than what they ever expected. Um, so I think that's probably the number one reason. Just some people just aren't cut out for it. Now, if there are people who do well at selling or enjoy the work, the reason they fail out is because they find the wrong agency. There's a mismatch. It's more about Kool-Aid drinking and MLM than it is about selling. Um, they're not in the ideal product for them. Some people do better selling a final expense product than Medicare, so they got strung along in the wrong product. And the next level beyond that is just, maybe leads too. I mean, I do have some sympathy for sure. Some agencies work leads that are total trash and garbage, and they don't really give you a great opportunity for success. But that's like the lowest thing on the list. That's the other things, along with the character talk earlier, that I think are the biggest differentiators. You got to have that stuff dialed in. And even if you have just all that and your leads are weak, you can still be successful.
Yeah, especially I know without a doubt I can make any lead work simply because I've put in the work to develop salesmanship. And guys, the colder the leads, the more selling required, the more trust you have to build. You have to sell them on trusting you before they even buy a policy. That's the first sale you're going to have to make with these colder leads. And for those of you watching, if you're not an insurance agent, I highly recommend. There's only two Davids in this. There's only two agencies in this world that I really like, and it's David and David. And I have one of them that you're able to talk to right here, right now, and listen to him. And so I really recommend that you listen to what he says. He's going to talk about the good and the bad, the ugly of selling insurance, which he's passionate about. Because most of you are going to get sold a bill of goods. You're going to say, "Come in and get this Lamborghini," and the person selling you it doesn't even own a Lamborghini. They lease theirs and take pictures in front of other people's and claim they're theirs at events. And then you come into a garage on your first day of work and you wonder why it's a Honda Civic with the engine all over the floor. And you're like, "I gotta put this damn thing together, David. What are you doing?" And what David's talking about with MLM is like, how to know if you're in the wrong place. If day one they're already talking about sharing the opportunity with friends and family, run for the hills.
Right.
Run to David's house, okay? He'll save you. I'm not. I don't have an agency, and I don't want to work with you guys. If I'm just being real, I want to do my own thing and write poetry. So
Right.
don't go. You guys go talk to David. So something I know you're really passionate about, we were talking about before the show, is the good, bad, and the ugly of selling life insurance. So let's take them out to deep waters and see if they can swim.
So we want to know the good.
Yep, let's start with the good and then end with the bad and the ugly. Might as well.
Yeah, I mean the good is most life insurance is a one call close, right? So if you're unfamiliar with what one call close means, it means that on the first connection with the client, there exists the probability that you can actually close the deal in the sale versus some business models or products that you sell. They take multiple visits, they take a longer period of time. And what that means is there's a longer period of time before you get paid. So with life insurance, tend to get paid faster than a lot of other products. So that's one of the good things. The other good thing about the business is there are millions upon millions of prospects, and it's not slowing down. The population grows each passing year. Some subsections of the population, like baby boomers who we target, are growing at a higher rate, meaning the amount of people who are essentially 65 and older.
Yep.
And that's not slowing down. It's not like a retracting business model where there's less and less prospects. There's more and more every passing year. And that's important because if you've never sold anything, you can sell the greatest thing in the world, but if you don't have a person to talk to about it that's actually interested, it doesn't matter how good the product is, you're already failed. Whereas with life insurance, you can have a mediocre product and have millions of prospects, and that mediocre product arguably would be good for them. Not saying that you have to sell mediocre, but the point is it's more important to have a market that actually wants to buy the stuff than it is to have the greatest product on earth, but nobody to sell it to. So life insurance facilitates that so that you can scale your activities and actually have a good shot of making this into a successful business model.
Yeah, not only that, the sales cycle is so quick compared to, I mean,
Right.
I sell a lot of info, so of course it's in my Stripe account, it gets deposited same day. Insurance is like the second fastest outside of that. I don't encourage you guys to sell info. you're essentially selling secrets and thin air and thoughts. It's very difficult to get a stranger to say, I really want to pay you for this secret that you know that's going to change my life. Don't go do that. Just sell insurance and be a normal human. Don't be like me. Uh, but man, I remember my mortgage. I was 3 months behind on my mortgage, and it was very embarrassing as a 22-year-old to be that far behind. And in less than a month, I was able to completely reverse the situation. That would have never happened working 40 hours a week anywhere else. And what David's saying is you can come spend an hour with a customer and get paid roughly 5 to 600 bucks on average. That's more than a doctor makes per hour usually. So there the opportunity is there where chaos is also. So now let's kind of go into some of that that's going to stop them from
Yeah.
making sales, the bad and the ugly.
I mean, nobody really wants what you're selling. So
No
let me
one
explain.
trusts you.
Let me explain how I mean by that. So, life insurance, the old saying in this business is life insurance is sold, it's not bought. And what that means is that nobody sits around and thinks, I need to buy a life insurance policy today, just randomly. They don't do that. What it takes to sell a policy typically revolves around somebody dying that's close to them or experiencing death and realizing that, we're all mortal and death comes suddenly and usually leaves a big bill, whether it's just the funeral itself or the loss of income. So what you have to do very well as a life insurance agent is to sell. You have to sell the most intangible product. Like you can't get the life insurance product until you die, meaning it's you're selling a promise to deliver upon your passing. That's unlike any other product. You could sell an iPhone, a car, like it's tangible, you can enjoy it. And that's not the case with life insurance. So you got to be very good at selecting people who are in that mindset, meaning generating the right kind of leads that are open-minded to the idea, and then B, convincing them that now is the day to buy, not tomorrow, because tomorrow may never come. So that's probably it's a I wouldn't say it's a tough sale, but it's tougher than saying, hey, hop in the car and drive around and experience it. Like there's some sort of elation or dopamine hit that you get from doing that. You're not going to get from life insurance. Um, Oh, what else is bad about life insurance?
Yep.
It's boring. I mean, it's now that could be construed as good. I would argue it's good, but in a bad sense, I guess it's boring because it's very highly repetitive. Like for example, if you join my agency, the Dig Agency, and you're to learn how to sell final expense burial insurance, life insurance for funeral and cremation to older people, we give you a script. The script is like the thing that gets results. Well, you say the same script over, 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 and over again. There's very little delineation or deviation from what the script says. And it's because it works. And every time agents do it, they get off track and they usually lose the sale. So it's almost like you're on an assembly line, rinsing and repeating. And your process and the thing you're building is the sales, is the script, right? You're just delivering the script. So if you're a creative brain, I kind of fall into that camp. It kind of drives you mad a little bit because you're saying the same thing over and over. There's not any like, this some days are different, unique. There people are special, but there is this kind of repetitive nature to it that you just have to discipline yourself to if you want to have any sort of staying power.
Yeah, and the thing that I would say separates, if you look at big MLMs, like their whole focus is of course recruiting and selling leads, which means their sales script is usually pretty bad. But it sounds like you've got that figured out, which kudos to you because it's very difficult. If you guys hear huskies singing in the back, just completely ignore it. They're they're
Yeah, I
they're bad, they're
can't
being
hear it.
bad children right now. Uh, but man, sales scripts, when you get the flow of it, I'd say it does get boring, and especially for an entrepreneur's dopamine system,
Yeah,
it's not very rewarding to say the same thing. So just be aware of that, but just take pride in fact that you're probably just going to end up memorizing it, and your customer has had this conversation once, you've had it 1,000 times. Your customers will get bored of it long after you do, and so just stick to it if you want to make money.
yeah, yeah,
Just stick
yeah,
to it. So that's a really important note because David is one of the few people who've been around the block, like I've said, and he knows what he is talking about compared to all these other options and alternatives you guys have compared to agencies who just they're not business acclimated. They just don't get it. They
right.
just don't get it, which is why I'd say one of the things you guys are gonna have to focus on is surrounding yourself with people Maybe you just don't like me and David, maybe, but find someone like us as it is at least going to give you the tools needed. If you
Right.
do like us, come hang out around the campfire. It really is warm over here. The grass really is greener, not because it's greener, but because we water it. We understand the work that has to be done. What are what are some of the things that agents kind of get in their heads about? You obviously lead one of the biggest organizations out there and the most profitable. So,
What is it getting your
yeah,
head about?
what would you say most of the agents get in their heads about and kind of like is it stuff that's going on in their home life? Like what stops them from doing the same boring, mundane stuff over and over again? Because that's where the success is.
Man, that's a really good question. It's hard to say. I mean, we were having this conversation with I was reading a post by somebody who put up a video and he said, I used to be in final expense and every single agent we'd bring on, there were some that were successful and then 2 or 3 months in they start getting chargebacks, which what I would call the ugly side of the business.
Yeah.
And then they would just somehow, some way lose motivation and quit. And so I guess maybe that would be one thing, is the chargebacks. People who buy don't necessarily keep. So it's important to sell the right way with the right products in order to minimize chargebacks, people canceling. But the other thing to come into it is not with rose-colored glasses and realize that, all businesses have refunds, chargebacks. There's going to be situations where people, dispute info product purchases. That's just part of the
Right. I
game.
love
Nobody,
that.
no, not everybody
I
gets
didn't
out of.
purchase that.
Yeah, yeah, it was a mistake. Yeah. So there's no business that's perfect. There's no business model or profession that's perfect, and you need to grow up if you think that it's just going to be perfect. It's not. You have to deal with the known adversity and handle it accordingly. And one of the ways, another thing that I think that's difficult is, for us at least, not all opportunities are like this, but it's a straight commission opportunity. And that means every morning you wake up unemployed. Brian Tracy used to say that. And you got to eat what you kill. And that's difficult if you've never been in that situation before. And then number two, the other thing that implicitly requires is you to manage your money better than you probably already are. Most people don't need to spend nearly as much as what they're earning in order to anticipate the chargebacks. But more importantly, I think long term, what's really important for all agents in this business is develop a bankroll. I used to say this all the time, I still do. My life changed as an agent. I started in 2011. When I had $50,000 in the bank, I just was at ease. I could have a bad week knowing that things will get better. If you trust the process, things, you have ups and downs, but it's a lot easier to say that with money in the bank than when you have none and you're just living off of credit cards. So it's stuff like that. I think that just the emotional toil that nobody really ever expects unless you grew up with entrepreneurs or your mom and dad owned a business. When you come into this and there's no certainty, there's no guarantee, and it really all comes down to you. It's a big burden. And again, that's why, salespeople that are really good in this business make six figures and make a lot of money because there's a lot of risks and they've learned how to handle it. So I'm not so much trying to be discouraging about the ugly side of the business, but it's to actually prepare you because most people aren't going to tell you this. They're going to tell you how easy it is and how everybody's doing it and everybody wants what it is you're selling. It's not. It's difficult. It's very challenging. And you should be thinking about how do I overcome the odds of this business? I would say 90% of the people fail out of this business in the first year. And a lot of that comes down to what we talked about initially, having good character, applying yourself, really working more than outworking the other guy, and being humble and coachable. When your coach or trainer, hopefully you got one, teaches you how to do something you're doing wrong, actually apply that. Don't question it too much. Put it to work. You'll find that it actually will help you. So there you go.
Yeah, the funny thing about help, David, I'm not sure if you've noticed this. I'm sure you have. You're a smart guy. Help usually hurts before it helps. It's like, oh man, he shot me with the help arrow, but it'll heal. It'll get better. I promise you. You're a big boy. You're a big girl.
Well,
You're
this is how life is. I mean,
yeah.
like I've sit here. I failed out of the business after the first year, so I've firsthand experienced failure and not doing what I'm supposed to. But it's you learn. You're supposed to learn from your mistakes. And it's what kind of life is it to live when you can't even experience the sting of problems or mistakes? Like it's just not how it is. You should embrace difficulty and adversity because there's always a lesson to be learned in it. and it's going to make you a stronger, better person. And just do away with your ego. We all have it. It's totally normal if you're a salesperson to
Yep.
have an ego, but you have to know how to supplant it or submit it to the ultimate goal of wanting to improve. And to improve, sometimes you expose your weaknesses and accept them and then work on them.
Yeah, there's another good thing Brian Tracy said for because I think it fits in really well with what you're saying, David. He says obstacles are not there to obstruct you, but to instruct you.
Right.
And so when you're learning like communication, NLP, stuff like that, they have a concept that's called there's no such thing as failure. There's only feedback.
Right.
And I think if a lot more agents took that approach, like, what is this trying to teach me? I keep getting the same objection over and over and over. What am, what am I not paying attention to? What am I missing? What is this saying about me that I might not want to admit to? There's a lot of negative admittance in this business. If you want to learn about yourself, become an insurance agent. It'll shine a spotlight on every single one of your flaws, inadequacies, character traits, and it can get very dark and overwhelming. And so you mentioned it was like a breath of fresh air. All the weight came off when you had 50K just sitting around. And there's some agent out there that's like, must be nice. Yeah, well,
Dude,
first
I
off,
didn't start that way.
correct.
It sounds trite, but I had 4 or 5 credit cards maxed out. I had 2 car loans I had to pay. I owed money on a former business venture that failed. I mean, like, I found a way. My kids had health issues when they were born that were very expensive. My wife has a pacemaker. I mean, like, I get it. But you gotta, if there's a will, there's a way. You gotta find a way out of it, and it's not going to be easy. There's not a there's no guarantees either. But we all have some level of adversity that we have to face. And I'll add something too to what you're saying too, Mason. That's really good. Is another Brian Tracy quote that always stuck with me is I am responsible. And I think it's important as humans and as men and women to constantly repeat this to us all the time. Now, you're not responsible for being a victim of something out of your control, right? But you are responsible in how you deal with the adversity. And I think that's kind of the mind hack that I've used. If I
Yes.
could use something that's cheesy, but it's true. Like, the last thing you want to do is be a victim of your circumstances. You want to be responsible for the good and the bad. And when you become responsible for the outcomes, or at least how you deal with them, it's empowering. You don't have to just submit to failure. You can learn something from it. You can grow from it. And I've always instructed my agents and others out there, tell yourself you're responsible. Anything you're complaining about that's not right, say I am responsible. Brian
Responsible.
Tracy used to
Yep.
say it all the time, and it's true because it empowers you to think about how to constructively solve your problems instead of just moan and complain.
Yeah, he says that in his Phoenix seminar. I'm not sure if you've watched that. It's a 10-hour one, but man, it's fantastic. And he does like a mathematical equation. David, he says like if you look at mentally ill people, it essentially comes from irresponsibility. The more responsibility you have, the more control you feel you have, the more freedom you have, the more positive emotions, the more responsibility you give away. I don't want to generate leads. I don't want to learn to sell. I don't want to stick to the script. I want to do it my way. I don't want to do what David says. The more control you give up, the more freedom you give up, the more negative feelings you have. So simply by stating that I am responsible, you will look at life in a different way. You'll feel like you have some degree of control over how you respond to situations and circumstances accordingly. And it's very beautiful. It is a very beautiful thing of human nature.
I'll
So
add
I
I'll
really,
add this into I find it fascinating that a lot of people run to this business and other business opportunities because they're tired of the grind, the 9 to 5 grind, and having a boss breathe down their shoulders and kind of the
10 times
response.
worse over here.
Well, that's the thing. I mean, if you literally, the way that you're successful is you have to engineer that same kind of environment on yourself without all of the stop gaps and the bumpers that keep you within that employment mindset. Like, you literally have to adopt that. Like, and the thing is, there's no boss or threat of being fired. You'll just go broke and nobody will
You'll
care.
just be homeless.
You'll be homeless. Yeah. So like, the best thing you can do is not have this, "Oh, I'm just going to work when I want. I'm going to do the hours. I'm my own boss," and all this. Don't do that. Come into this and say, "I'm going to work 12 hours a day. I'm going to be completely committed. I'm going to set up boundaries between myself and my family, my loved ones, because, and that may sound harsh, but if you don't do that, you're probably going to fail because you're at the whim of other people and what they want. So you have to take responsibility for that side and not treat this because, oh, I run a business, I can do what I want. That's the surest way you're going to fail.
Yeah, and that ties in with Niccolo Machiavelli in the book The Prince. He talks about put chains on yourself before life puts shackles on you.
All right. Yeah.
And so, guys, boundaries are not there to confine you. They're there to give you freedom to operate inside of you. You don't. Well, David's talking about setting parameters and boundaries between your family. Like, hey, when I'm working, you can't come in here. Like,
Yeah.
because if not, if you don't set those boundaries, you're going to end up homely. You're going to have no boundaries to set. Someone will put boundaries on you and say, nope, you're going in this cell because you didn't pay taxes because you
Mason,
didn't set
the fun,
boundaries.
the funny thing along those notes is, a lot of us like they come work with me because they want to work from home, and it's great. Like, trust me, I've driven an hour, hour and a half to get to an appointment, to get
Yeah.
no showed, and wear and tear. And like, it's great to sit down at your desk and sell. But the funny thing is some of our best agents, they actually go rent an office space so they can get out of their house and get away
Yep.
from the distractions of being home, spouse, kids, dogs, to do their work. And they're more productive and they make more money. So they're literally getting themselves a job in an office like they were at. Kind of comes full circle. But that's just how it is. We have to know thyself. What are our weaknesses, and in some sense avoid the temptations, right? That whatever ours are, we all have them, in order to give ourselves the chances of maximizing our opportunity.
Yeah, so simply from an environment change, that removal of distractions, that's one of the that's I won't say a hack. I can't stand the word hack, but it's one of the greatest things you can do because if it's not in your environment, it's not on your mind, and you're just free to operate inside of, okay, I have to get this done. I have to get this done. I am responsible. I have to get this done. My family's livelihood depends on it. My greatness demands it.
Right.
So that's really beautiful. What would you? Who are your favorite, like who do you, what types of agents do you see come in and they make the biggest shifts? I notice the people who have like the most pent up energy, the most resistance, because they have so much emotion involved with it. The moment you redefine that negativity into positivity, they're off. They're off. So like what have you noticed about people who are most likely to succeed in this business? I think it's a very important definition.
I think it comes down to being humble, being coachable, not taking things personally. Like, if you get upset about little things, you're never gonna, like, look, Mildred, your prospects, for us, we call our prospects Mildreds, they're
Mildred.
old people. They're gonna rip you apart. The things that they're gonna tell you are gonna make your grandma blush. And if you can't handle a coach, telling you, like, get your shit together, stop messing around, do this instead of that. And they don't say it like that. I'm just being blunt. If you're even offended when they just marginally correct you, like, you're not going to make it, man. Just go somewhere else and do something else. The people who are successful, they want the coaching. They want to be told they're not as good as they could be. They want to be challenged. They have that desire for success. And the other thing that they have is a sustainability element. There's the graveyard of failed agents are full of people who had a $30,000, $40,000 premium submitted or issued month, and meaning they had a great month, but they couldn't sustain it because they just let themselves get in their own way. They didn't discipline themselves, or they weren't aware of their own weaknesses and dealing with the doubt and the frustration. Like, every person who's going to do this business is going to have that. And it's what you do outside of the sales training and the scripting that makes a difference for sustainability. And I don't know, Mason, if that can be taught. It certainly can be addressed, like we are now. But in those moments where you're like, I got 5 chargebacks, I got to, this is frustrating. They won't answer the phone. Like, that's clutch time. Like, you got to make a decision to still get up, get back on the phone at 9 and stay on for 8, 10, 12 hours anyway. And so that's what makes it or breaks it, is the little things like that, or going the extra mile. Instead of quitting at 6, you quit at 9, right? So maybe you sell a
Just quit
policy,
later.
you quit later. Yeah, it's just, And it's the culmination and combination of all of these things over time that if you just stay consistent to the plan, a lot of people can't do that for whatever reason. And then you find that you're the last man standing and you're the only one, you're one of the few that are making very good money because you're disciplined to the plan.
Yeah, for all my people pleasers and procrastinators out there, you're going to do fantastic here if you just put off making your excuses and you go please your customers. I promise you this industry has something in store for you. You just have to be willing to take rejection because it's never personal. They're rejecting themselves. No one's going to see you as a taker, which I know most of you are scared of. If I go pluck a blade of grass from the yard, two of them grow back. So it doesn't exist in nature. It's not going to exist in you.
Yeah,
This is
you
really,
know,
yeah.
I'll add this. I don't mean to keep interrupting, but you
No,
bring up
you're
really
good.
good points.
I think this is a beautiful conversation for agents.
So I do jujitsu, and jujitsu is there's a lot of similarities between the pain and frustration of getting smashed and beat and submitted for years on the mats, and the process of improving as it is getting smashed and beaten by your prospects. And one of the things my head jujitsu instructor said a long time ago that resonated with me. He said, "You don't have to understand why something works in order for it to actually work. Like your ability to comprehend or understand something doesn't impact something that does or doesn't work." And so one of the things I'll tell you guys out there, like one of the things you'll experience when you're learning a script is you'll have some sort of doubt. Like, I wouldn't say it that way, or that sounds too forward, or this isn't the word choice that I'd use. Look, just shut your brain up and do what you're told. It's really the fastest point between A and B is just doing it, right? And whereas you can like, and I say this because I'm a victim of this myself because I think too much. And had I just shut my brain off like with objection handling, it took me years to understand why a rebuttal works. But I used to do different things, and I'm sure I didn't make as many sales as I could have if I just did it, even though I didn't understand it. So come into this with again humility. You're not going to understand everything, and it may take you a long time before you understand it. But that's not an excuse not to do the way the system is designed.
I think that's a beautiful way to cap it. This has been really valuable, David, for the agents and agency owners listening who want to learn more about what you do. Tell us who's a good fit to work with you and how they can get in touch.
Yeah, so our specialty is in the final expense business, so burial insurance. We recruit agents who want to work remotely from home. And the big sales pitch is in-depth sales training, hands-on one-on-one sales training, as well as free leads. We don't charge you for leads. It's a great opportunity, I think, for 90% of agents out there because getting rid of the leads and the expenses. I mean, you really have to spend 1,000 to 1,500 a week to make it work. Getting rid of that expense is a huge relief to the agent, and you can just focus on getting better and selling. New agents are a great fit. Part-time or full-time is a great fit. About the only type of agent we don't want are the narcissistic assholes that are out there, and that's about one out of 20 of you. Don't apply if that applies to you. We have no time for it. But if you're not that guy and you like the idea of sales training and free leads, then check us out. You can go to davidduford.com. There's a video or a Q&A you can join that'll explain everything, and it'll tell you how commissions work. It'll tell you how our systems work so you can grasp a better understanding of it and see if it's a good fit.
Perfect. We're going to wrap up here. You guys go comment down below. Say thank you to Dave Duford for sharing his insights on the good, the bad, the ugly, and all things in between that you're going to experience here in the near future as an agent. And for those of you interested in learning more about David Duford, you can go to davidduford.com. I'll have all of his links down below in the description. If you're someone who's not even insurance, maybe you're tired of the boss and all the stuff we talked about today, and you somehow think this is the industry for you. You know what? I believe in you. Go check out Dave Duford. He's one of the only people I will put the Mason Van Meter stamp of approval on because he's a fantastic agency owner. He cares about his agents, and he solved one of the biggest problems that most agency owners will never admit to being solved because they don't want to define their chain of command at their MLM. That's cool. You're just shooting yourself in the foot. So go work with David. He's smart and he'll give you the tools and resources needed. If you'd like to be a guest on Policy and Profit, we're always looking for successful agents and agency owners doing at least 10K a month in commissions and have unique strategies and stories to tell. You can apply at the link down below in the description. And one more time, if you want to stop getting people on your team that never sell anything and drain your energy, you want to recruit the right people the first time on autopilot and fill your agency with rock stars, go to writemorepolicies.com/playbook. Until next time, keep building that commission machine, my friend. David, you crushed it, man. That was fun as hell.
Thank you.